back.
We're back.
We're back just like that, and it's that time for the second conversation, April. This is one that is extremely important, especially following the onset of a pandemic, and how you try to wrap your mind of dealing with it, dealing with the family, dealing with all the hardships or what we feel are. And I feel the conversation will direct us into that space where there is a way out. Exactly. So we're sitting here with the director, the director of Monarch Counseling and Consulting, my sister, none other than Christa, Courtenay, mental health counselor and manager at Monarch Counseling and Consulting.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and I'm so happy to be here again for another very important conversation.
Yes.
We like that to you.
Thanks for
We like that to
Thank you.
But so yesterday was World Suicide Prevention Day, and everyone was having this conversation, and we wanted to tap into the mindset. I know you can't always pinpoint certain persons that are having these kinds of thoughts, but how are you able to, as a friend, somebody from the outside, have a conversation with someone that you know is struggling, and it's a very sensitive conversation to have, and you don't want to tip the scales or to take it to a place where it didn't need to go, and you probably shouldn't have said anything. So how do you start that kind of conversation?
Well, that is honestly, I think, one of the major misconceptions about the whole topic. I mean, suicide is essentially a word that describes how someone has passed, right? It's so you die by car accident, you die by heart attack, you die by suicide. So it's not like, it shouldn't be a scary word. I think because we don't talk about it enough, it is very scary. And again, like most things, if I feel something and it's overwhelming and I don't think people understand, I tend to hold it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not feeling like you have to hold it in is one of the first little steps that helps to break that pathway to feeling that suicide is the only way that I can get relief. And so having being willing to even have the conversation, and most people feel that if I bring it up, if I ask my friend how they're doing, I'm afraid of what they might say. What if they say something and I don't know what to do with it? Right? And so there's a chain reaction, because if I don't know what to do, or I don't know who to call, or I don't know who to refer them to, then now I am sitting with this and I'm scared. And so there's just an avoidant type attitude towards it, because we're still really scared of it, and there's still a lot of stigma around mental health issues. There are thousands of people in Belize living and functioning every day with severe mental illness. They're functioning, but for how long? Right? It's like if you have a broken leg and they tell you that you have to stay off of it for 8 weeks, but you feel like after 4 weeks, I have to go to work, I have to earn my paycheck, I have to do this, I have to do that. The healing period takes longer if you don't follow the protocols for that particular injury. And so with mental illness, there are protocols, there are things you can do to manage that illness. You may not be able to fully make it go away, but there are techniques, just like diabetes or heart health or anything else. There are techniques and skills and tools to add to your toolbox to help you manage that conversation. So the first thing I would say to someone who is worried about a friend, ask, are you having suicidal thoughts? And if they say yes, then you go on Mind Health Connect's website, mindhealthconnect.com, and you find whoever can speak to that person. Oftentimes, just having someone know that they're having these thoughts releases the intensity a little bit. Pulls you back like 2 steps from the edge. So you're not generally asking about this is not going to tip someone over the edge. Dismissing it, making a joke about it, saying it's weak, calling people stupid for doing this over because they think they understand the situation, that will tip somebody over the edge more than asking, hey, I notice you're sad, I notice you're withdrawing, are you having suicidal thoughts? Like, is this something we need to talk about? And often just being able to express it will release the tension. The tension may build up again, so it may require additional steps, but at least now somebody knows and they didn't judge me for it. They're just a girl, or guy. I'm so happy you told me. I really don't know what to do with this,
Yeah.
but I'm happy you shared it with me. Like, what can I do? What, you know?
But Christa, let me throw this in. Sometimes it's actually the cognizance that you're actually feeling that way. There are many times you talk to somebody and you ask them how you're feeling and they say, I don't know. You know, you get in that space where I don't know. And maybe the thought is all the way behind the mind, but you hear the word and it might just be there and then the answer. You know, I'm sorry that I'm bringing it from that light, but that's what I feel the reality is. How do you approach? I feel the approach is very important in terms of how do you approach these people, and at the same time, how do I know that that's what I'm going through? Tell us about some of the signs that, you know, somebody is on the edge, or I might be. For me personally, I'm on the edge. How do I get or become cognizant of that?
Yeah. It's different for everybody. If you can imagine, for instance, a family that has 4 children, different ages, maybe 2-3 years apart. They're in the same family. They live in the same house. They have the same, perhaps, mother and father. They have the same access to education. They all go to the same school. They all eat the same food at dinner time or whatever. But they'll each have a still very different experience and perspective of their entire family dynamic, because they're all seeing it from their own position. So it's first important to realize that your position, how you see things, is important. And if you are constantly feeling just a lot of things to the point where you cannot pinpoint one, you probably need to talk to a professional to help you sort it out. That's one of the signs that you need to reach out for somebody who knows more than you, or who knows more than your friend or your spouse. I love when people come in and I'm like, you know, so what are you thinking? What's been happening this week? I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know means I can't pick one. I don't know means there's too many. I think there's some that are connected to some stuff, but I'm afraid to say it out loud. So I don't know is just the
Safest way
to express it's a lot, doc. Like, it's a lot. And I don't even know where to start. Right? So obviously, wellness type related exercises. So things that help a lot with just managing emotions on a regular basis are the things that we eat. A healthy diet can contribute to a healthier mood. Things like yoga, or yoga related exercises, Pilates if that's the case, even the karate or capoeira or those types of things. Things that get you connected with your body, where you have to be really aware of where your body is, the sensations within your body. You have to listen to where your edges are. Your body will say, you can't do that today. If you push past, you injure. But we don't have the same awareness emotionally. And pandemic, it's one of the things, the good things that has come out of the pandemic is that it moved up this conversation, I'm sure, by several years. It's like everybody has been touched in a way that now it's safe to talk about, because we all went through the pandemic. Everybody can see it. Everybody can feel it. And so it's brought up this conversation, which I'm happy about, but there's still so much fear-based reactions that it makes it still really challenging and unsafe sometimes for people to express how they're feeling.
Why do you feel, do you feel that we are heavily reluctant to have the conversation about suicide because it means for the family death?
There's a lot of different reasons. If you look at the history of suicide at one point was illegal. Right? So if you think about where things have come from, we talk about the colonialism of Belize all the time. Things that we're entrenched with that we don't even realize, our unconscious biases towards certain things. And so if you make something illegal, it's criminal to make an attempt on your life. You have already categorized it as something that is a misfit, an outcast, something that's not normal, something that, you know, and then the taboo around it, you never talked about it. I mean, many communities don't even report it as a suicide, so that we don't even know accurate statistics about how often this is happening. So it's always been something that people didn't know how to deal with as a society. People didn't understand. And if somebody dies by suicide, you can't go ask them. You don't have, if they leave a note, that is a snapshot of what they were going through for a long period of time generally before they actually reach the point where they're successful with suicide. And so even that, we use the term commit suicide, which now we're understanding just reinforces that old outcast illegal type term. So we've now, I think we've changed the law so that in Belize in particular, it's no longer illegal. But at the same time, there's still this language that just gets passed on generation to generation. We don't talk about it. And many, many families are touched by it, but even in their own family unit, don't know how to have a conversation with each other.
How do you, from a family standpoint, how do you explain, or not explain to a family, but how do you as a family have that conversation? Do we as a family have to seek professional services in terms of how to get it started? There's somebody in the household who might be suffering from mental health disease, and we have seen a few things or detected that, you know what, this person seemed to be on the ledge, not the edge, on the ledge, like we're right there. But at the same time, the family had been seeing it for a while, and it could be tiring. Remember that bottom of the bucket one drop out situation? So how do families try to bring themselves back, knowing that it's something that is reoccurring? You do get tired, but at the same time, that is your loved one.
Yeah. Again, each situation is going to be unique in and of its own. I always encourage families to have these conversations, maybe not with the younger kids, but couples or people who are in relationships with each other, to talk about these things. But if you feel that you're talking and you keep going in circles, it keeps cycling to this ledge type of point, like maybe you come back from the ledge, but then you end up back there, it means that whatever you're doing likely isn't enough and it isn't working, right? Even just the idea, how many people are at their jobs for 30 years and they get frustrated with management change and they're like, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. At the point we start to reevaluate what's working and what's not working in our lives is usually the point where something, we keep bucking, it's not working, I can't go on like this anymore. But that's usually, I mean, when you look back, you can see that that progression started quite a while ago. But we just keep going. We just keep doing what we know to do. We don't know as a community, as a family, how to stop and say, all right, what's happening here and what resources do we need to put towards it? It's also something that's hard to access, right? A lot, and we're trying to do more and be out there more, and Mind Health Connect to, you know, have the website that's accessible for people so that you have from your own little personal device, you can see who you want to see or who's available in your area. But it's still not widespread enough. The resources are few, but we're still working very hard to try and increase that.
So when you do get to that stage of, okay, I've accepted that there's something wrong, I need to seek help. The coming forth to actually getting that help. How do you now move them to that stage of, all right, I need to go and I need to see Christa. I need to be able to sit and actually talk to her, not just sit there and have a staring competition, right? So how do you move forward?
There's a lot of ways you can support people. So it's part of what they teach in peer helper training, like at the high school level, because I'm a peer helper, but I'm certainly not a therapist, right? You can't solve anybody's problem. But the training is in listening skills. The training is in how to say, you know what, I know somewhere that you can get help. Would you like me to help you make an appointment? I can give you the number, you can call or text, or I can make it for you, right? So any little bridging of that gap that we can do to get somebody to somebody is generally going to be helpful, because again, it's all about feeling safe to reach out. feeling comfortable enough to reach out.
Yeah.
And that's a big move.
Majority of the communities that see these kinds of conversations as taboo, or, you know, as my grandma said, just say a couple Hail Marys and call it a day, right? You know, they can't necessarily afford proper health care and services. So what happens then to folks that really that need it? They know they need it, but they can't afford it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are many people that fall through that crack, right? It's something that we continue to advocate for, both through Mental Health Association and Mind Health Connect, and I'm sure there's other groups advocating as well to kind of augment our social response. There are some conversations trying to be had too on some plans, although they'll take some long-term effort. But what we're seeing is that there is, because nobody knows how to talk about it, because it's very difficult to fund as well, or to understand and see the impact, the resources are just not there. And so you have several people I know in Belize who are in private practice like myself, and our group practice, so there's other therapists with us there at Monarch. But you have people working private practice, you have people working public sector as well. The Community Rehabilitation Center has free counseling, at least here in Belize City. And I know that the ministry is working on increasing that and making sure that there's one in each district so people can access it. But I'm still guessing that those are going to be overrun with long waiting lists, and it's hard. So we use people like community workers, right, to try and assist them in knowing how to support in the moment, maybe keep moving people back from the edge until they can really get the support that they need. And what breaks that barrier and gives people access to a lot more people than just professionals. I mean, you may end up needing a professional at some point, but that middle road sometimes really can help save a person's life. So smiling at somebody, having a conversation with somebody, checking in on them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's the day today? Just being able to share how I'm feeling with someone else, sometimes just witnessing that with someone, just being there is a lot, right? It's really like everything in that moment to just pull them back those 2 little steps and just, you know, wait a little bit longer to see if you can get them to help. So there's teachers generally in schools who you find all the kids like and are comfortable talking to. There's the one that they're going to share everything with. And so you try to find whoever you can that's slightly above where you are, connect them and see how we can just bridge and hold that person's hand until we can get them to the proper care. And sometimes that's enough to kind of give them enough time to turn the tide.
You've mentioned Mind and Body Connect.
Mind Health Connect,
Mind Health Connect. Tell us a little about that. We know the time is not, time is dwindling just like that. Tell us a little about that, because I feel if there is a platform or if there is a spot that I can go to quickly reach out because I'm not feeling like myself, then that would be a better help for me. Like you mentioned, it's a 2-step back type of thing, so you could get the proper health care that you need. Yeah,
so Mind Health Connect is a non-governmental organization, but our main push is to make sure that people have the information that they need. So it's more of an information sharing platform rather than a hotline. That is something that we have on our plan to do a hotline. But there's a lot of things that go into that, and you have to have the amount of people to answer the call. Can you imagine calling a hotline and nobody answers? Because you don't have enough trained people to handle that phone call.
And then how do you take that phone call?
Right. And then the main part about having a hotline is the support services, right? So when you train Red Cross First Aid people, they're there to handle a physical injury, and they've already called the ambulance. The ambulance is on the way, right? And then the ambulance comes and the ambulance takes over, and they take that person then to the hospital where the doctors are. A lot of our psychological first aid, we don't have anybody to call. Who are we going to call to come and help? So people are often very hesitant to get involved because they don't know what to do or who to call. Mind Health Connect is there. You can call and ask what to do. We can advise, for instance, you can call the number and it's like, this person is doing this, what do I do? We can try to give you some resource or tell you head to the hospital, make this phone call, tell them this, so that the PNPs are there, the system that we do have, you can try to access. And so Mind Health Connect is there, mindhealthconnect.com. It's an information website at this point, and then the other advocacy activities that we're constantly doing to raise awareness.
What do you think that we can do as community members, as civilians, to break that that barrier of mental health being something difficult to talk about and something taboo? You know, I mean, we're here having this conversation, and our viewers at home are listening, but you know, half of them are probably tuning it out because this is not a conversation I want to hear, or I don't think I need this conversation.
Yeah.
So what do you think we can do as civilians to break that barrier?
I think, honestly, even people who are not suffering with mental illness, just talking about different stressors and struggles, it's not talking about it like to complain per se, but sharing that we all feel this way, this is normal to feel this way. People who are in therapy, I love when my clients turn into little therapists, you know, they're like, oh, you need therapy, and here's a number. Like, they start to be able to recognize that, okay, I've been through this and I've had help, and this sounds like something you need to go to somebody for. Like, I can't help you with this. But people's personal experience, word of mouth, being willing to share information, being willing to just share your own struggle. We need a lot more people talking about it, so that people who are feeling it can relate and feel like, okay, I'm not alone completely.
There are people who might be getting these services, but for them might not be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It continues to be the two-step back, but I continue to make that two-step right back forward. How do you cope with that, you know, as a professional, and how do you like, and how do these people cope with that?
Yeah, every case is unique, you know, and if you're coming for one issue and we can deal with that issue and then we can prevent it from escalating to something that's harder to manage, that's obviously preferred. But sometimes we get people who've just been struggling for a really long time, who've had early childhood trauma, which has kind of wired that nervous system to behave this way. And so there's different therapies now that are available, that we're noticing different types of protocols that we can use that's more than just talk therapy. Talk therapy is important and it really helps. But I noticed that, you know, we're trying to augment our training and our protocols to be able to deal with more complex issues, and we're seeing good results, albeit slow. But there are some people who just are not going to be able to respond.
So let's wrap up with Monarch and Monarch Counseling and Consulting. Where can we find you? Where can we call you? How do we get into? How do we call Christa? I need help.
Well, you can WhatsApp our number or call 670-6080. The website is there, monarchbelize.com, and I usually direct people there so that they can check out the counselor profiles. You can see the picture, what their areas of expertise are, and you can kind of make a choice. Just like you find a doctor that you like, and you leave this one because you know, like how they talk to you or their bedside manner or whatever. Picking a therapist is just that important. So you need to be able to feel safe, you need to be able to connect, you need to feel comfortable to say things that are really uncomfortable. And so if you meet one and you don't connect well, it's quite fine to move on to someone else until you find somebody that you connect with, because all of our styles are different.
Right.
You know, how we present ourselves are different, and it's not always a good match with everybody. But I always advocate, you are the customer. And so you need to find the provider that serves you the way that you need.
And can we have Zoom services? I might live in
This
Fiji,
is the
but I've
one
heard
thing.
about Christa.
This is the one thing that, like, it even pushed me out of my comfort zone. When COVID hit, we had just renovated our offices to expand, to have more people to be able to provide services. So people have a variety of people they can choose from. And then we were in lockdown for like 4 months. So we have this brand new office and
nobody could go in.
We can't go in. I didn't like the virtual therapy, but we've gotten really accustomed to it. And so there are certain protocols that we follow to make sure that people's privacy and confidentiality are protected. But absolutely, it is now available in a way that everybody is far more willing to try or do, whereas they might not have been before. So it did kind of open it up quite big.
All right.
So yes, virtual services are available.
All right, Christa Courtenay, mental health counselor and manager at Monarch Counseling and Consulting.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Conversations like these, we need
You're
to
welcome to
continue
come back
have.
anytime.
Well,
Yes,
of course.
and
So when
call
we
me
call you up,
anytime.
because we need for a slap.
That's okay. Call me.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to take a break. That was a very interesting and important conversation, but we need to take a break. And when we come back, we'll be having a...
It's going to be a very different feeling, vibe, and setup because we got John best friend, Lover Boy, in the studio. And he will be here to discuss all about their new upcoming singles and what we can expect from them. Him and his son will be in studio, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.